She did not plan for that evening to matter. At first, it was just another tired day that rolled into another quiet night. Work had been long, her head ached, and her phone buzzed again with a message she already knew the meaning of. Someone reminding her she was still single. Someone saying time was passing. Someone saying, just try once more. She stood in front of the mirror longer than usual, not because she felt excited, but because she felt unsure. She changed her top twice, then changed it back. Nothing felt right. Nothing ever did when it came to dating. The blind date was not her idea. It came from a well-meaning coworker who believed love was just one meeting away. The place was a small cafe near a park. Warm lights outside, soft music inside. On paper, it sounded nice. In her chest, it felt heavy. She told herself this would be simple. Sit, smile, talk, leave. But even before she arrived, she sensed it would not go well. She reached early and chose a table near the window. Outside, people walked past holding hands, laughing, living their lives without thinking about how hard it was for others. She tried not to compare, but comparison always came quietly, like a shadow. When her date arrived, she knew right away there was no spark. No ease, no comfort. They greeted each other politely. Too politely. The kind of politeness that fills space but says nothing. He talked about things she could not connect with. She nodded when she should, smiled when expected. The pauses between words grew longer. Silence pressed down on the table. She sipped her drink slowly, wishing it would end faster. Her thoughts drifted. To work, to deadlines, to the one place where things made sense. Work was the only part of her life that felt stable. She worked hard. She stayed late. She proved herself. It was easier than dating. At work, effort meant something. Dating felt like guessing in the dark. The conversation slipped again. Her date checked his phone. She pretended not to notice. The air between them felt tight and uncomfortable, like a room with no windows. Then it happened. She looked up without thinking, and her heart dropped. Across the cafe, near the counter, stood her boss. He was there casually, not dressed for work, holding a coffee, talking to someone from another department. He looked relaxed, human, different from the version she knew at the office. For a second, she hoped she was wrong. She wished it was someone who only looked like him. But then his eyes moved just slightly and met hers. Time slowed. Her stomach tightened. Her face burned. She wanted to disappear. Work was her safe place. Her control. The one part of her life she managed well. And now, in her most awkward moment, it felt exposed. She quickly looked down, hoping he would not recognize her. Hoping he would turn away. Hoping he would leave. But she could feel it. He had seen her. Her date continued talking, unaware. She barely heard him now. Her thoughts raced. What does he think? Does he think this is who I am? Awkward? Desperate? She hated how loud her mind became in moments like this. She forced herself to stay calm. She nodded. She smiled again. Her smile felt thin and tired. The date dragged on. Each minute felt heavier than the last. Finally, she found an excuse to leave early. A headache. In early morning, anything they said goodbye with polite words that meant nothing. No promise to meet again. No sadness. Just relief. She stood up slowly, grabbing her bag, hoping to leave unnoticed. But as she passed the counter, she felt it again. That quiet awareness. Her boss looked at her, not with judgment. Not with surprise. With concern, that was worse. Their eyes met briefly. He gave a small nod. Nothing more. No wave, no smile, just acknowledgement. It felt too personal. She walked out quickly, the cool air hitting her face like a wake-up call. She breathed in deeply, but it did not help. Her chest felt tight. Her hands shook slightly as she unlocked her car. The drive home was quiet. Too quiet. Every red light gave her time to think. Thinking was the problem. She replayed the night again and again. The awkward pauses. The failed conversation. That moment of being seen. She wondered if he would treat her differently at work now. If he would see her as weak, as someone who could not get her life together, she hated that thought. At home, she kicked off her shoes and sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing her coat. The room felt empty. Not lonely in a dramatic way. Just quiet. Still honest. She thought about how many nights ended like this. Not with tears. Not with heartbreak, just with disappointment. She had tried dating apps. Group dinners. Blind dates. Advice from people who meant well. It always ended the same. She felt like she was searching for something she could not name, while everyone else seemed to know exactly what they wanted. At work, things were easier. Clear goals. Clear rules. Clear effort at work. Her boss noticed her dedication. He trusted her. He respected her. She never questioned her place there. But tonight blurred that line. She lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. She wondered when she became so tired of hoping. When love started to feel like a test, she kept failing. She fell asleep late. Her thoughts heavy. The next morning came too fast. She dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made her feel capable, strong, professional. She told herself last night meant nothing. People had lives outside work. It was normal. Still, when she walked into the office, her heart beat faster. She kept her head down, focused on her tasks, emails, meetings, numbers, familiar comfort. Her boss walked in later than usual. She felt his presence before she saw him. Not because he demanded attention, but because she always noticed when he entered a room. He greeted everyone calmly, normally, as if nothing had happened. Relief washed over her. The day passed slowly. No strange looks. No awkward comments. She began to relax. Maybe it really did not matter. Maybe she was overthinking. But as the afternoon ended, her phone buzzed. A short message. "Can we talk for a moment?" Her breath caught. She stared at the screen longer than she should have. Her first thought was work. A project. A question. Something urgent. Her second thought was the cafe. She stood up, smoothing her clothes, telling herself to stay calm. This was professional. It always was. She knocked lightly on his office door. He looked up and smiled gently. Not the confident, distant smile he used in meetings. Something softer. "Come in," he said. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. The room felt quiet, private. He gestured for her to sit. She did. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable, just thoughtful. He leaned back slightly, hands folded, and looked at Hernot as her boss. "But as someone trying to understand, I hope I'm not crossing a line," he began carefully. "But I wanted to check in." Her heart beat faster. He paused, choosing his words. "The other night, you seemed uncomfortable," she swallowed. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay." That was it. No judgment. No teasing. No authority, just concern. Something inside her shifted. She nodded slowly. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice was quieter than usual. He studied her for a moment, not pushing, not demanding. "All right," he said gently. "If you ever need flexibility or time, just let me know." She thanked him and stood up. Her legs felt weak as she left the office. Back at her desk, she stared at her screen, but the words blurred. Her chest felt tight again. But this time, it was different. He had not embarrassed her. He had not judged her. He had seen her as human, and that scared her more than anything. Because for the first time in a long while, she felt truly seen. That night, as she lay in bed again, her thoughts returned not to the failed date, but to that quiet office, that calm voice, that question he almost asked, but didn't. She sensed something unfinished in the air, something waiting, and she did not know. Yet that one simple question would soon change the way she saw love, timing, and herself. The days after that conversation did not feel normal. On the outside, life went on the same way it always did. She woke up early. She went to work. She answered emails and joined meetings. She smiled when needed. She focused on tasks. Anyone watching from the outside would see nothing different, but inside, something had shifted. She kept thinking about his voice. Not what he said, but how he said it. Calm, careful, honest, no pressure. No hidden meaning. Just concern that was rare. She told herself not to read into it. He was her boss. A decent one. Kind, respectful, thoughtful. That was all. Still, her mind returned to that office again and again. To the quiet pause before he spoke. To the way he looked at her as if he was seeing more than her job title. She tried to ignore it. Work helped. It always did. She stayed busy. Took on extra tasks. Helped others. Productivity became her shield, but feelings have a way of waiting. A week passed. Then another. One evening, after most people had gone home, she stayed late finishing a report. The office was quiet, lights dimmed, keyboards silent. She liked this time of day. No noise. No expectations. She did not hear him come in. Still here? His voice asked gently. She looked up, startled. He stood near the door, jacket in hand, clearly on his way out. Just finishing this, she said, gesturing to her screen. He nodded. You work too much, she smiled lightly. Someone has to. He did not smile back right away. He stepped closer, leaning against the edge of a desk, keeping a respectful distance. Can I ask you something? He said. Her chest tightened, but she nodded. Why do you always stay late? He asked. Not just tonight. Always. She hesitated. No one had ever asked her that. People usually assumed ambition, or perfection, or control. She shrugged. I like feeling useful. He watched her carefully. And when you're not? She looked away. The answer came too fast. I feel lost. The words surprised her as much as they surprised him. The room fell quiet. He did not rush to fill the silence. That mattered. After a moment, he spoke. I understand that more than you think. She looked back at him. Really looked this time. He looked tired. Not work tired. Life tired. They stood there for a few seconds longer than necessary. Then he straightened. I didn't mean to interrupt, he said softly. Just don't forget to rest. When he left, she sat back in her chair, heart racing that night. Sleep did not come easily. She realized something uncomfortable. She trusted him. Not because of his position, but because he listened. Because he did not try to fix her or impress her. Because he let silence exist. Trust was dangerous. She told herself to be careful. The next few weeks were a slow dance of almost moments. Short conversations in the hallway. Shared smiles during meetings. Quiet understanding without words. Nothing crossed a line. Nothing inappropriate. But something was growing, and she felt it. One afternoon, asked if she could walk with him to grab coffee from a nearby place. It was a normal request, something they had done before with others. This time, it was just the two of them. They walked side by side, steps matching without effort. The weather was soft, not too warm, not too cold. They talked about small things at first. Work projects, deadlines, changes coming soon. Then he slowed his pace slightly. Can I be honest with you? He asked. She nodded, though her heart began to pound. I've been thinking about that night, he said carefully. At the cafe, she felt her face warm. I hoped we could forget that. He shook his head gently. Not because it was awkward, because it was real. She said nothing. He stopped walking. She did too. He took a breath. When I saw you there, I didn't see someone failing at dating. I saw someone trying. That takes courage. Her throat tightened. He continued, voice low but steady. And it made me realize something. She looked at him now. Fully, I realized I care more than I should, he said. And I wanted to understand why. The city's sounds seemed to fade. She struggled to speak. This is complicated. I know, he said quickly. That's why I didn't say anything before. I respect you. I respect boundaries. She believed him. He looked at her, eyes searching. So I'll ask carefully. He paused. Why didn't you ever consider someone who already sees you? Someone who knows your quiet strength, your patience, your honesty. The question landed softly, but it shook her. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no easy answer. They resumed walking slowly, silence wrapping around them. She needed time. That night, she thought deeply. Not about him, but about herself. She thought about all the people she tried to impress. All the dates where she pretended to be lighter, funnier, more confident than she felt. All the times she thought love had to look a certain way. She thought about how safe she felt around him, how she never had to perform, how she could be quiet without feeling boring. She wondered when she learned to chase what felt distant instead of what felt kind. The next day, she asked him to talk. This time, it was her knocking on his door. He looked surprised, then nodded. Of course. She sat down, hands folded tightly. "I've been thinking," she began. "About your question," he listened. "I think I was afraid," she said. "Afraid that choosing someone close would make things real. That if it failed, I'd lose more than just a date." He did not interrupt. "I thought distance meant safety," she continued. "But it didn't. It just meant loneliness." Her voice wavered. "I don't know what this means," she said. "And I don't want to rush into anything, or make things messy." He nodded. "Neither do I." They sat quietly. "I care about you," he said finally. "But I care about doing this right more." She felt relief wash over her. They agreed on something simple. Honesty, space, time, no promises. No labels, just two people choosing to be real. Weeks passed, their connection did not disappear. It deepened, slowly. Naturally, they talked outside work, shared walks, long conversations about fears and hopes, about past mistakes, about learning to be patient with themselves. She laughed more, slept better, worked with more balance. He seemed lighter, too. There was no dramatic moment, no grand confession, just a quiet understanding that love did not have to arrive loudly to be meaningful. One evening, they sat on a bench, watching the city lights turn on one by one. She leaned back and sighed. "I used to think something was wrong with me." He looked at her. "What changed?" She smiled softly. "I stopped running from what felt right." He nodded. "Sometimes the best things are the ones that don't chase us." They sat there, side by side, comfortable in the silence. The future was still uncertain. Work boundaries remained. Life remained complex. But she felt hopeful, not because everything was perfect, but because she had learned something important. Love did not start with being chosen. It started with choosing herself, and sometimes the person who sees you clearly has been there all along.